Hey, you ever stop and think, wow, that would make a great story? Same here. On Cat Stories, we pull together short tales from life that'll make you laugh, think, or just go, yep, been there. My name's Kathleen and let's get started. And for our next post, am I the idiot for asking my flatmate to clean my dishes? I F25 can't believe she F19 actually made a post conveniently leaving out some details. On Sunday I went to the hospital regarding a gym injury, which led me to discovering that I had some underlying conditions and had to be hospitalized. Now I personally can't stand doing dishes immediately after eating, but I understand that you gotta take care of your responsibilities in a common space, so usually right after eating I clean wash off any food bits and place it in the sink and wash up an hour later. It was 2 plates and a mug. Unfortunately my stay has elongated to 4 days. She calls me furious, demanding why did I disappear and not bother to do my chores. I assumed she was mad as just a week before she was finding it troublesome to clean up after herself, and I didn't side with her when another flatmate confronted her directly. She wasn't rude or anything, she just said it outright. BC, she said it during the call and said, funny how you sided with her when you yourself can't clean up after yourself. She then went on to say how the sink was crowded and she couldn't do any dishes. I wasn't sure how long my hospitalization would take, so I apologized and told her if it's okay she can help me to wash them and I'll get her coffee for the inconvenience. For some reason she didn't believe me and asked for proof, which I felt was silly and I wasn't obligated to respond to, and she's convinced I'm lying. To get out of washing 2 dishes. The other flatmate I mentioned told me how she's trying to stir the pot and telling everyone in the flat that I just dipped and left the sink crowded and messy for a week, and that's how I found out. She posted on here, am I the idiot for asking my flatmate to wait, and when she said she couldn't to help me wash my dishes? And for our next post, am I the idiot for calling out my grandmother? Am I the idiot for calling out my grandma's bullshit? Throwaway because my family has read it. My father died suddenly at the tail end of November, which caused a flurry of chaos trying to get my military brother home on such short notice. Since he came on such short notice, he didn't pack his dress uniform for the funeral. It took a full day of travel to buy him a new one, but he needed it tailored. Our grandmother said she knew a tailor, so he went to her and the uniform came back the day before the funeral, but done wrong. Patches that were supposed to be sewn on were glued on. Brand new shirt, ruined. We're understandably angry and frantic as we try to figure out what to do while my grandmother scurries away as if she were a kicked puppy. We barely had time to get a new shirt from a military surplus store and hand sew the glue-covered patches in place. Thankfully the patches weren't ruined, as those would have been even harder to find. Funeral happens, my brother goes back overseas, and we didn't hear a single word from my grandmother, who had supposedly been very upset about my father's death. Christmas Eve, roughly 2 weeks after the funeral and everything else, I haven't been able to function because I am so heartbroken. Normally on Christmas Eve we go out to celebrate with family 1 town over. My mother stayed in town with me to be my support, but neither of us told the family we weren't coming out. We didn't hear a word from my grandmother, aunts, or cousins. In a fit of upset and hurt, I texted my grandma a few messages about how my brother and I survived our father's full military honors funeral, getting my brother's uniform fixed, getting him back to his duty station, and how we wouldn't be coming out to Christmas. How I'm hurt she didn't check in with us about anything, and some sarcastic thanks for asking tacked on at the end. The next morning she texts back, ignored essentially everything I messaged her, and replied saying she would reimburse my brother for his uniform. Didn't say anything about missing us at Christmas or asking how we're coping or any form of support, which is what I wanted and needed. I messaged back telling her that she missed the point. All she kept saying was stuff about my brother uniform, and then suddenly talking about how she felt like a failure after I told her I'm hurting and you don't seem to care. For more context, this isn't the first time she has bailed when my immediate family was going through some rough times. Last year my mother's husband died and she essentially did the same thing of dismiss my mother's heartbreak and treated her like a child with a broke toy rather than a woman who lost her husband of 20 years. It has started getting around the family and everyone has opinions on it, and a lot saying I should apologize to keep the peace. It's got my second guessing even saying anything to begin with. I don't know where else to turn for advice. AITA, grandma didn't lose her son. My father was her daughter's ex-husband. My parents divorced in 1999. My father was nothing to my grandmother anymore. And for our next post, am I the idiot for refusing to cover outrageous costs for my future SIL's bridal shower? I 23F am going to be a bridesmaid in my fiancé's older sister's wedding, which is set for October 2025. While I'm excited to be part of her big day, I've been a bridesmaid before and know how expensive it can be. The costs for this wedding are piling up quickly. I've already paid $300 for the bridesmaid dress, the required shoes, and $1,000 for the destination bachelorette trip. Initially, we were told there was no pressure to attend, but her mom later said it was shitty that some bridesmaids were considering skipping due to the cost, so I felt pressured to go. After we booked the trip, the maid of honor informed us that we would also be covering all of the bride's costs during the trip: food, drinks, and anything else. This was never discussed beforehand and added another unexpected expense on top of an already expensive trip. My future MIL mentioned that, as a bridesmaid, I'm expected to help pay for the bridal shower. She said she Googled it and found that the bridesmaids are responsible for the costs, not her as the mother of the bride. In all the weddings I've been part of, the bridal shower costs were primarily covered by family or a family friend who volunteered to host it at their home. The bridesmaids usually helped with smaller things like games and decorations. I don't mind contributing to the bridal shower, but it needs to be within reason. With everything else I've already paid for, it's becoming unmanageable, especially since I'm trying to save for my own wedding, which is planned for mid-2026. My future SIL is expecting a fully catered bridal shower with elaborate decor, which feels unrealistic for a group of bridesmaids to fund. It also seems like she's picking things that aren't even within her budget and assuming others will cover the difference. Am I the idiot for wanting to set boundaries around the bridal shower costs, especially when it feels like at every turn an unexpected expense comes up without any discussion? I know weddings are expensive as I am currently planning one, but how much is too much to ask your bridesmaids to pay? In previous weddings I was a bridesmaid in, I would spend about $1,200 total. In this case, that's not even covering the bachelorette trip. I do want to make this whole thing special for her, but it's just starting to get very costly, and I know the other bridesmaids are feeling the pressure too. We are all young and just starting our careers. Edit: I've already spoken to my fiancé about this and he agrees it's out of line. He has my back on however I choose to approach this and was curious to see everyone's responses and advice. We are a young couple and are open to advice on how to handle this. He's already offered to speak to his family, but based on prior situations, he doesn't think it'll go anywhere. The two of us have drawn our lines on these matters on previous issues and in fact moved further away to really separate into our own family while in pursuit of our careers. And for our next post, am I the idiot for calling out my classmate? Add a repost: am I the idiot for calling out my classmate for his transphobia? This happened a while back. My classmate M16, who we'll call Oliver, has a habit of opening his mouth when he shouldn't. My friend trans M17, let's call him Leo, is a really sweet guy and struggles a lot with dysphoria, and I try to support him as much as I can since my best friend trans M16 also is a transgendered man, and obviously since Leo is my friend. Me, Leo, and Oliver are in the same class. Our major is cooking and serving, but we are still in our first year, so we have a tiny kitchen to work with along with like 15 other classmates. Since there are 5 more females than males in our major, the teachers decided to make the dressing rooms unisex. I don't mind it since I am not into dudes either way, so they know that I won't bother checking them out, but the issue started in around November. Leo had already left the building while I was still getting dressed. Oliver was talking to a couple of the girls and had asked me why Leo doesn't wear a bra while changing, saying it was weird and gross. For the record, Leo stands into the literal corner of the wall. He isn't walking around and flashing everyone or anything like that. I told Oliver it's a changing room. You change your clothes. You don't say anything when I am walking around in my bra, so why would Leo be an issue? And if it is, go ask him. Why would I know? I don't remember exactly what Oliver said next, but I left. I told Leo about the weird interaction. I didn't mention that Oliver had said that it was gross since I didn't want to hurt Leo's feelings. Leo became upset as he didn't even want to change around other people because he feels discomfort and insecure. I told him to just ignore Oliver. A couple of weeks later, right before Christmas break, I overhear Oliver talking to his friend, calling Leo a fat tr**nmy. That was it for me. I walked up to him, absolutely giving him it. I was shouting and screaming insults, asking why he was such a douchebag and a bigot. Oliver laughed, saying it was just a joke. Well, what is funny about making fun of someone's weight and calling them a slur? Oliver just laughed at me, and I went right to our head teacher, and if I think I let Oliver have it, I cannot even imagine what the teacher told him. Oliver looked horrified once he showed up to our next class. I haven't told Leo about it since I don't want him to get upset, but I think Oliver learned his lesson because I haven't heard a word from him this semester. Some of my friends told me I should have just ignored Oliver since he is a douche, but some think I was in the right, so Reddit, now I am asking you, am I the idiot for doing it? And for our next post, am I the idiot for no longer updating my ex on our child's school stuff? I split up with my ex almost 2 years ago. My child started school the same year. My ex was never too involved in our child's educational needs, even when she was a toddler. I handled it all myself. My child's school offers multiple apps and websites. You can be up to date with everything without ever having to contact anyone. I asked my ex repeatedly to get at least the main apps so that I don't have to keep reminding him of important dates and our child's progress. He didn't care. Just a few examples. Whenever I asked to make a plan for any school break, he'd ask when the school break is. I sent him links to the school website, but he couldn't even be bothered to save a screenshot, make a note of the dates, etc., so he'd ask again next time around too. He couldn't be bothered to update his phone number in the school records, so the office couldn't contact him during an emergency. I informed him about all parent-teacher meetings. He said he couldn't make it, and that it made sense for me to go because he didn't know the teachers even in September, when neither of us knew the NEW teachers. Side note, he doesn't work. I do, so I thought it was logical to have him attend, so I wouldn't have to take time off work to do so. I'd send him any important dates, school plays, any shows, sports events, etc. He'd pick and choose the ones not involving much interaction. Reading together on the World Book Day was a no-go, but watching the kids race was okay, etc. I'd even invite him to events organized by any clubs. My kids is in clubs I organized and paid for myself, but he always had an excuse unless the events fell on his weekends. Even then, he'd sometimes ask me to swap the weekends. I accepted it for over a year for the sake of peace. I wanted my kid to see her dad support her achievements too. But it's been so long, and I'm just tired of having to both handle the responsibility and remember to give him updates about it. It also felt like I was trying to make him involved when he clearly wasn't interested, so last autumn I announced to him that it was on him to stay up to date with our child's school stuff. I gave him 2 weeks to get everything sorted. I even listed all the important apps websites so he wouldn't miss anything. The only one I didn't share was a payment portal, as I knew he wouldn't care about that one. I promised to still share any information passed via written notes, letters, etc., as obviously he would not have access to those otherwise. I followed through with it. It took him 2 months to realize what's happened, and now he's furious, saying that I'm using the child against him. He got his family involved, and now they are all bombarding me with texts saying that I'm the idiot for doing it to him and our child. His mother also pointed out that she'd done everything herself as well and didn't involve her husband in the school stuff, so she knows it's not that hard and I'm being dramatic. Am I the idiot? That's all for now. If you enjoyed the stories, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments. I'm always up for reading them. Until next time, it's Kat. Goodbye.